Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host is Chris. What's up, bro?
Hello, everybody. Hello, my dear friend Zach. Excellent to see you. I hope all is well and looking forward to our discussions and our time together. Just really, I love this time to be able to chat with you and spend this quality time and talk about the things we love, and it'll be good. We
That is
so
a
need
true
it. Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Yes, you hit the nail right on the head, my friend. We need it. We need it. We need it. It's very good mental health and just it's an opportunity to just chat. For those of you watching or listening, if you don't know, Chris and I's wives don't share a lot of the same things in common. Like we have very different tastes in movies and TV shows. Although I do think
Huh.
your wife, Chris, likes a little bit more in common with you than my wife does.
Maybe a
I
little bit.
think.
We do like yeah, we do share the love of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is good. But like remember we were talking like earlier this week, like our wives love like the medical and the crime dramas,
Yeah.
and then I have never been able to get like into those like
No,
so
same.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's only so
Uh,
many head wounds at the ER that they can show on one medical
uh,
show before
uh,
it's like, okay, I've seen this storyline before, but
yeah, and I know they're super popular, like the NCIS, and there's several different like
yeah, Criminal Minds
mhm,
and like
yeah.
my wife really liked that, watch that show Blue Bloods and
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
have a lot of these crime shows. And my wife likes Grey's Anatomy, which I know you said your wife likes, and
Hmm.
things like that. Yeah. Now, I will say, Chris, I would watch a show like Grey's Anatomy if like a comic book villain came onto the like if the
Yeah.
Joker, like if the actual Joker, not somebody cosplaying as one, but if the actual Joker showed up at the ER due to wounds from a fight with Batman, wouldn't you want to watch that
Oh,
episode?
there you go. Then that would be one that we could watch. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be that would be one to watch.
That'd be a
That'd be
great
cool.
crossover, though, wouldn't it? Crossover event, like
Yeah, like
DC villain meets like Grey's Anatomy, and don't know what to do with him because he's evil.
so the tagline could be like DC's Grey's Anatomy or Grey's Anatomy in Gotham.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Gotham, yeah, Grey's Anatomy, and instead of the Seattle skyline, it turns dark, and all of a sudden there's a
Yeah.
flash, and it's Gotham skyline, and then there's like lightning, and oh, that would be cool.
That'd
We
be
might be
cool.
onto something, Chris.
We might be. And we totally have I have no idea what I'm talking about because I never watched like Anatomy, but
I haven't
like
either, but
yeah, but
uh, my wife, I've seen it in the background enough. My wife watching it.
mm.
We could be onto something though, my friend. We might have an idea right here. This idea could bridge the gap between fellow nerds and their spouses. And this could be a coming together moment across all of the nerd
Yeah,
couples.
you could it could meld. Yes,
It could be.
absolutely.
We might be. We might be. So if those of you who are watching or listening to us, don't steal our ideas, please. Anyways, thank you all, as always, so much for watching and listening all over the globe and the interwebs. We always appreciate that. Be sure to go on to Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube if you're listening to us on the audio side. And if you're on YouTube, you can find all of our episodes everywhere you get your podcasts for those older ones where we didn't have video yet. But we are here today to introduce a franchise onto the podcast, Chris, to which we have not covered at any length. We've mentioned it here and there, but we have never actually covered or had a discussion about this franchise before.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. It's never been a main topic of anything that we've discussed. We've talked about it during our Halloween specials and throughout like different episodes. We've brought it up to the surface, but now we get a chance to like talk about it as the main topic because like you and I, definitely we grew up with this franchise. It is an extremely popular franchise, and so many people like uh, are aware of it all over the world. And I think maybe it crosses, it definitely crosses some genre, and I think interests people that, may not necessarily be interested in sci-fi because they're not so much as into sci-fi as we are, but they're definitely into horror. And so then they definitely get interested in this franchise because of the horror aspect of it. So this will be we've both been thinking about this like a lot, so this will be good to kind of touch base on. We're not going to cover everything, but
Right.
this is kind of be good like intro discussion as for today, and then as we talk about it in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little franchise
Yeah.
overview.
Hmm.
I think Chris, I think we started mentioning the idea about discussing the Alien franchise as a whole all the way back to like season one of our podcast. Like the very
Yeah.
beginning, we've had discussions about this. Said, yeah, we're going to talk about this, and then things happen, and we talk about our topics, and time gets away from us. But we are finally here in season 8, episode 2 of the podcast, talking about the Alien franchise. Now, for those of you on YouTube, you don't see the season number and the episode number. That's only on the podcast or on the podcast platforms. But last week, at the time of this recording, we sat down with Nami, musical composer for Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and a bunch of other stuff to discuss her career and her work and processes and musical composition and so forth. And that was our season 8 premiere, Chris, and it was a blast sitting down with Nami and talking with her. I just had an absolutely wonderful time.
We sure did. She has such a wonderful personality and is just great and a pleasure to talk with. And she's just so super positive, um, and just a great, vibrant like individual to talk to. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. And we all know that what would movies and television shows be without that underscoring music, right? If there was
Mm.
no music and it was just talking, it wouldn't be the same. And so musical composition and folks like Nami who make this incredibly wonderful music that really enhances and honestly to some extent it really makes or breaks a show or a movie, right? Amazing music really enhances what you see on the screen, even whether it's the small screen or the big screen. And we've been fans of hers for quite a while, and it was awesome to have her on. So if you haven't watched or listened to that episode, please be sure to go check that out on our YouTube channel as well as your favorite podcast platform.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So let's jump into this, Chris. I know we kind of talked about this just a few minutes ago before we started recording that, we're just going to do kind of an overview, we'll jump around, talk about some different things that we like, dislike, stand out to us, whatever. Talk about some different parts of the franchise as a whole. I know we've talked about at some point once we both finish Alien Earth, we'll cover the first season of Alien Earth, assuming there's going to be more seasons. But if
Hmm.
this is all there is, then we'll cover Alien Earth, the
Hmm.
only series in the franchise. Everything else is a movie.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, I have been thinking about this one a lot, but if we go back to the beginning of it, the beginning being Alien, that first movie,
Yeah.
right? And it came out in the late 70s, 1979, Alien, directed by, the amazing Ridley Scott, who also directed Blade Runner, who also directed Gladiator, these amazing movies. And the screenwriters of Alien, that we noted are Dan Bannon and Ronald Shusett from that time.
Yeah.
It was, that first Alien movie, um, I think was so effective because the pace was you go into it, you don't know what's happening. There's a lot of mystery and build up. That there's beautiful like science fiction and production and set, and you encounter another planet. There's a giant alien spacecraft, uh, and then happens, and then you just got this horrific stuff that happens on the ship. Um, and then you also have the component where there's an android, but you don't know that the individual's an android, right? But the android throughout the course of the Alien, it doesn't actually he's not very helpful.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so it was like so effective in that regard. Um, So, Ridley Scott's involvement in Alien and then Aliens was directed by James Cameron, and then Alien 3 by David Fincher, and then Alien 4, I believe, was a French director, Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I don't know if I'm saying the name right. correctly. But they each have their really distinct like feel, I would say. And like I'm curious on your end, like I kind of got into it on Aliens, the second movie. That was the one kind of my entry, but I'm curious like your entry on like when you started getting familiar with it.
Um, I'm trying to think if I watched the first one first or if I watched Aliens first. I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Um, m my gut tells me it was the first movie.
Mm.
I did not get into the Alien movies until much later. Like I wasn't a kid when I watched them or anything like
Mm.
that, right? I mean,
Okay.
I don't think I started, I don't think I watched the Alien movies like actually all the way through until probably well, I might have watched the first Alien movie or the first two, the end of high school and maybe right at the beginning of
Okay.
college, somewhere in that
Okay.
time period. I mean, I knew about them. I had friends, like my friend Shelby is a huge Alien franchise fan. I had friends who were big fans of the franchise growing up,
Yeah.
but I don't ever remember really being into them or really having a huge interest into them, mostly because I think I saw them more of like a horror movie with a lot
Yeah.
of gross stuff in it that I just wasn't interested in.
Yeah.
But then once I got a little bit older and I watched them, I was like, oh, okay. So there's a huge sci-fi element here, obviously. There's the horror side of it. I've never been a big blood and guts kind of person. I'm not, it's not really my thing. I know it's not your thing either.
Yeah.
Um, and the Alien franchise at times has some blood and guts, some more than others. I think the first Alien movie didn't have a ton, right? I mean, we see the xenomorph baby pop out of the guy's chest. That's kind of
Yeah.
gruesome. Right? Or he flopped on the table and it pops out. But then a lot of the don't a lot of the deaths in the first Alien movie like kind of occur off screen where like it goes to attack the person and then it cuts and then you don't actually see the actual death scene.
I want to say that's right. Yeah, I mean it's the you have the shock value of the that first chest burster
Yeah.
that no one expects, and then yeah, after that, it kind of the movie turns into like a stalker slasher.
Yeah, like
It's
a
a
Terminator,
slasher movie.
like a chaser movie, right? Like a
Hmm.
Terminator, Running Man kind of thing, like
Yeah, it
that
is.
idea.
Yeah, and it's very much like a yeah, a slasher
Yeah.
horror film for that. The
Yeah.
I,
I would say Aliens is a little more gruesome than the first Alien movie, right? I mean, there's a little
you,
more
you
gruesomeness to that because of all the Marines and there you see a number of them get taken out.
you see them taken out, yeah, but for me, like the Aliens was and this kind of goes into how I'm thinking about science fiction and this genre. The second movie, Aliens, there's so much cool, I would say like this coolness factor like associated with the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
It was it was very much like, hey, you've got the Colonial Marines, you've got all of this tech because they had that,
Yeah.
and you had this really great squad. Then you've got kind of a sleazy corporate guy like in the background, and you're going on this mission. Like, hey, they're going on this mission. They're gonna explore the terraforming colony. You're doing this, so there's all this like technology aspect of it, terraforming. They're going to this colony. You see the spaceship, you see their gear, um, and there's both this adventure aspect in it because they're all going on it, and then the action aspect, and then the I almost wouldn't really call it like horror on the second Aliens movie. It was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary, right? But it was like more like like just intense like action and thriller. And so you and there was some a little bit of grossness in there, but I will say like to me the second Aliens movie was not as um gross as many others in the franchise, you know.
Yeah, I would actually argue, and I'm curious on your thoughts on
Mhm.
this, Chris. I would argue of the first four Alien movies, I
Yeah.
think Alien Resurrection was the most horror like.
Yeah, I recently saw this. Oh, sorry. And do you know Alien 4 Resurrection was written by Joss Whedon? So
I
realize that.
I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think I realized it either.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because I recently saw it, and so I saw that. And
Sorry, Josh, it wasn't a very good movie.
yeah.
It just wasn't. I have
Yeah.
many issues with that movie. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. The Alien Resurrection was just it was a strange movie. And I think part of it was just because they bring Ripley back as a clone,
Yeah.
and she's like the mother of the queen, and she has all like these weird behaviors and like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really bizarre. I almost kind of wish they would have taken Alien Resurrection and just made it an Alien movie minus Ripley, and not been about Ripley. Like they still could have had um was it Winona Ryder on there, right?
Yeah.
And the other characters, and it could have been about those characters and not about Ripley. And I think that might have made it better, honestly.
Yeah. And here's
And
yeah.
it's nothing against Sigourney Weaver. I mean, I love Sigourney Weaver. She's an amazing actress. I just don't think that the way they wrote the part and the way they kind of made that movie centered around her and
Mm,
as a clone, it just didn't work for me.
yeah. And and for me, like as a fan and as an audience member, I see in my or how I'm receiving it, and in my opinion is like this is where I think Aliens as a franchise gets in its own kind of stuck conundrum cycle because
Mm,
this is where you go like the first Alien movie was like so mysterious and then bam, you get this thing. It's like it's a monster essentially and it's killing the crew and it's just a survival game from that movie, right?
yeah,
That's what that movie is. The second Aliens movie is like, okay, we're going on an adventure. Um, we got to find out what happened to this colony, and then you realize like as they're exploring the colony, they were experimenting. The colony was experimenting with aliens as they found it, and then you just get into this just battle with all these aliens, and it's awesome, and it's a survival game, and there's this, and you gotta escape. And it builds on it because you've got more aliens, and then you also build a little bit more mythos in the alien creatures, and that now you realize, oh, there's a queen. So there's a queen, which was a big deal for the second Aliens movie, and then you see the queen like laying the eggs, and then you kind of learn on how they're reproducing. And then, but that's that. That's kind of how far you advance in learning like who they are. And the third Alien movie, they're on the prison colony, and then it's a very like contained and smaller, more type like movie, kind of going back to suspense and horror. And this is kind of Ripley has the alien in her, and she dies like at the end, right? So that's kind of that movie, and then Alien Resurrection, um, you think about it and like where were they gonna go? Like where were they gonna go after the third Alien movie? Because the third Alien movie, you don't learn more about the creature, really.
right.
You don't know any more origin. And then Alien Resurrection, it kind of goes in the direction where, hey, now they want to militarize these alien creatures, and then you want to clone a human alien hybrid. And when I started thinking about that, I could go, okay, at least they were trying to advance like something or take it like a little bit further. Um, but the movie was also gross.
Yeah.
It was really gross too, like at the end. Um, and so the alien hybrids like didn't work and they end up killing that hybrid alien human at the end of that movie. And that kind of after Alien 4, there was a long span of time and there was no other Alien movies. There was a lot of other Alien franchise media like comic books and video games and role-playing games. And I actually got like many of those comic books in the day. And
Yeah.
and then we've got the role-playing game too. Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because the first four Alien movies, right?
Yeah.
And then everything after that, minus the minus Alien Romulus,
Yeah.
everything after that is a prequel. Everything. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Alien versus like if you in chronological order, if you
Hmm.
look at them, right, you have the two Alien versus Predator movies, which is Alien versus Predator and Alien versus Predator Requiem. Both take place before the first Alien movie. Prometheus is a prequel. Alien Covenant is a prequel. Alien Earth is a prequel. And then you have Alien Romulus that slides in between the first and second Alien movies.
Yeah,
But everything else after that is a prequel, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. But I'll be honest, I want to ask you this question, Chris.
yeah,
If we had nothing else, and I mean nothing else, but the first two Alien movies, which I think you and I would probably agree are the best of the franchise, right? The
yeah,
first two. Over everything else, they're the best of the franchise. If we only had those two movies, would you be satisfied as a franchise or whatever having only those two versus having all of this other content? And I ask you that I want to get your answer to that. And
yeah.
then I also want to ask the follow-up question is, do you think and Alien Earth has been good so far. I've enjoyed the first half of what I've seen.
Okay.
But outside of that, like the follow-up question would be, do you think that the Alien franchise is either beginning to or has already passed a level of franchise fatigue?
Yeah. The first, those are great questions, Zach. Yeah, and like after I talk, I'm curious like what your response is for those exact same questions. Me personally, I would be satisfied if we just had the first Alien movie and Aliens. Um, and I found because like, Alien 3 had so many challenges as a movie, but like I can appreciate the ambition that it had itself, but
Mhm.
I didn't find that Alien 3 kind of advanced any further knowledge of like what was going on, right?
Yeah.
And neither did Alien 4 really. Um, and I would be satisfied with just the first two because what I have seen from those prequels, being like if we think about Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and the prequels were they had beautiful production and like they were beautiful movies, but like the premise I felt was not fulfilled. And I think there were especially some things in Prometheus that I thought really it was trying to be an interesting, intelligent movie, and then it went to this really kind of disgusting, gory fest that like took me out of it. And I mean Ridley Scott came back, I think, with Prometheus, right? If we're looking at all of these alien movies, I think Ridley Scott was involved in the first Alien, and then he started coming back in Prometheus. Maybe there were some other things in there, but I know he.
Was he not involved as a producer in the Alien in any of the other Alien movies before that?
That's a great question.
I don't
I
remember.
don't, I don't, I don't know.
But
Yeah.
yeah, regardless,
Yeah.
yeah, I think his involvement is key. He is involved in Alien Earth,
Okay.
I believe, as an executive producer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's directed any of it, but I think having him involved in it is beneficial for the franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. And and like so those first two movies, it's the first one again being like a slasher killer movie, and then the second one being like an adventure. The ones that come after, because what I'm curious of is like, hey, what are the origins and background of the aliens? Where do they come from? Um, and I want more exploration of that. And rather than a repeat of like a horror slasher thing and a repeat of grotesqueness.
Yeah.
And I know that in Prometheus and Alien Covenant and then Alien Romulus, yes, like they're trying to go back to they're trying to explore the origin of the aliens. And I know that's the point of Prometheus, but I had personal problems with it, right? I'm like, because they're trying to connect the origin of the aliens to like the origin of mankind and make those connections. And I thought, okay, first it's interesting, but then it just got really uh on this tangent and not fulfilled for me. Um, and that's where it gets to me where I think for me there is a little bit of franchise fatigue that I see because rather than exploring the origins and spending more time with um, how the aliens evolved, there's a lot of kind of grossness that happens. In both Alien Covenant, in Prometheus, I think the last third of Prometheus, there was just uh, very gross scene for me that took me out of the movie where, there's the alien and Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, and she has to go in to the medical pod, and it's cut out of her, and it was just really gross. And I was like, oh, I don't want to see that. So that's where I started to get fatigued. And then in Alien Covenant, um, just seeing that, no, I didn't really feel like they fulfilled where the aliens came from, or they kind of retconned who the aliens were, and now they were just kind of this bio weapon, this engineered biohazard weapon that came from, I guess, um, cells. So that's where I started to get some franchise fatigue, my friend. I'm
Okay.
curious,
So that
curious on
answers the
you.
question
Yeah,
then. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I'm curious with you on would you be satisfied with just Alien 1 and Aliens 2? And are you experiencing like fan franchise fatigue?
Okay. Let me give you the short answers up front.
Yeah.
Yes, I would have absolutely been satisfied because I think
Hmm.
those two movies would have, I think, encapsulated a lot. Now you wouldn't have all the origin stuff,
Yeah.
right? But I think as movies, right, they would be enough. That's first question. Second answer is to the fatigue, yes. Um, Big time. And I'll explain why. Uh, so this answer is a little bit longer. The reason why I have fatigue, franchise fatigue, is a couple things. Well, first of all, before I mention that, I think Alien Earth is good. I've
Hmm.
enjoyed it so far. I do think it's a good addition to the franchise.
Okay.
Um, that being said, I think, and having read a little bit on some of these Alien movies that I have not seen, because I have not seen Prometheus and I have not seen Covenant. Um, that, and I do agree with this person's take. I don't remember. I don't remember who it was. I apologize, but they basically said they basically mentioned that the Alien franchise doesn't really know what continuity means.
Ah, okay.
So my understanding is because again I haven't seen the movie that Prometheus because it's supposed to go back again before the other movies, before Covenant, Alien Earth, and all the other Alien movies. Is that the way that they do Prometheus? And you've seen this, so you can tell me.
Yeah.
I know you didn't like the movie. Is that basically the Prometheus movies wipe the Alien versus Predator movies off the out of
Hmm.
existence because
Yeah.
there's conflicting stuff there. So they're basically saying, "Yep, these movies don't exist. This is really the first thing. The AVP stuff doesn't isn't a thing."
Yeah.
Right. So I do think you have some continuity there. I think the other element to the franchise fatigue is not only continuity, but I think the franchise as a whole, uh, really since the second Aliens movie. That's why I said I'd be happy with the first two.
Yeah.
That since the second Alien movie, I think there's been a struggle with what to do with the franchise. I think there's been a lack of direction on where the franchise should go. Because if I have learned anything from watching the Alien stuff that I have watched, again, minus Covenant and minus Prometheus, I've seen the other stuff, is there's nobody overseeing the direction, right? And I also learned too that humanity's pretty stupid. They keep going back to the well. They keep making really bad decisions by experimenting with these alien creatures, by trying
Hmm.
to turn them into military weapons, by trying to do tests on them, and I mean all these things. And you get to the point where like, okay, how many more times can we get a movie where uh, something's, a colony or ship's gone missing, and some other people go to investigate, and they come to find out, oh yeah, humans have been experimenting on the xenomorphs again and doing tests. It's like, why don't you guys just stay the frick away from them?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like if they come to you, okay, then you have to got to defend yourself, right? But otherwise, just avoid them at all costs.
Yeah.
Why continually put yourself in situations where there's any chance that these aliens could I'll use the word infect, but that's not impregnate, whatever, your colony, your ship, and kill everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw a whole group of colonial marines, and even, I mean, now granted there was a queen there, but they had a hell of a time. I mean, they all died except for Ripley.
Ripley. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So yeah,
and Newt and Hicks.
that's
Sorry.
true. And
Yeah.
yeah, the little girl and the cat.
Yeah.
I think and what I love about the Aliens movie, which I think we both agree is the best in the franchise, we've mentioned that. Is there some uniqueness there? They find the little girl. It's this miracle that she has survived all by herself, which makes it very fascinating.
Hmm.
I love that, like the humor in the Aliens movie is really good and very well timed. It doesn't feel cheesy. It doesn't feel forced. It feels very organic
Yeah.
to the movie. It feels organic to the characters that they introduce. I mean, Bill Paxton's in it. He's amazing. Paul Reiser from Mad About You. I mean, this sleazy, corporate guy, like you said. I mean, it's just so well cast. The characters are well written. Um, it's
Yeah.
great. So I guess my long answer to that is yes, I absolutely think that there's massive franchise fatigue. I think the Alien Earth show has maybe given us a little spark of refreshment to
Hmm.
the franchise, but again, it's also a prequel.
Hmm.
So I think what they should do is, and again, I haven't watched the last episode of Alien Earth, but what I think is maybe they finish off Alien Earth and then they just walk away. Just walk
Hmm.
away for a while until you legitimately have something that really advances the franchise and refreshes it in a way that brings everybody back and excited about what's going on, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Just building off of what you're saying about Aliens, the second movie, when I think about Aliens, like we do learn more about these creatures, right? There's a social aspect of it. There's the
Yeah.
hierarchy, there's the queen, and then you get the sense that like, well, I wonder where they actually come from. Um, and then your point on the prequels and that kind of wiping everything else out is totally like correct. Like the Alien versus Predator, which I thought was like a really cool idea. If you think
Yeah.
like,
The
yeah,
first one,
yeah,
anyways. The second one was pretty terrible, but the first
yeah,
one I thought was actually kind of ingenious. You're bringing together two incredible franchises.
yeah, yeah, and like the two very like menacing like creatures, right? So, and then like with this premise that like they've been battling like each other for like a long time.
And it would
Um,
make sense, Chris,
hmm?
because if you think about the predator as a hunter, right? And this idea that the predator would hunt the xenomorphs as
Yeah,
sport makes complete sense given what we know about the predator species and the alien xenomorph species.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, these prequels, it totally eliminates the idea of, at least this is how I'm receiving the prequels. It totally eliminates the idea of um, the aliens like being a race or these living beings all on their own. Now they're like this, they they're a weapon. They're a weapon coming from spores, right? And the spores will enter any host body and then mutate like the host and then come out. So like they're this parasitic spore type weapon. And it then became that's what these aliens were. And then it became like who were these quote unquote like engineer races, these kind of very, very large looking like human being like things that apparently is where the origin of humankind came from. And
Yeah.
then it became like about them. But you don't really learn more about them. I don't think. Now I haven't finished Alien Romulus, so maybe you do, but I don't feel that in Prometheus or in Alien Covenant, we really like learned more about them. Like that didn't happen. Um, and then Alien Covenant, um, what troubled me about that movie was, now you had two um androids. Is David is his name, right? I think the android's name is David. Two versions. You had the first version who apparently like um he killed Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, the only survivor from Prometheus, to experiment with her, like on aliens. Um, and so that really bothered me. You had the android kind of one version of the android go crazy, um, and the idea of the android being introduced now is an interesting idea, but again, I don't think it was fulfilled because it goes back to Prometheus, where you had um, the founder of the corporation, I forget his name, but he's looking for a way to preserve and preserve his life and have like more he wants to be immortal, right?
Yeah.
But he's created this android like as a vessel to like help him. And then he wants to learn more about the engineers and he wants to learn more about the aliens so that he can hopefully like make his life like longer and
Yeah.
like become immortal. And I
Yeah, and
thought,
that's in
okay,
Alien Earth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's in
Yeah,
Alien Earth. Okay.
yeah, it's an Alien Earth. You have this young guy who wants to try to figure these things out, right?
Hmm.
And he's trying to figure out immortality, and he's using these kids at the beginning who are sick and have terminal diseases and transporting their consciousness from their dying bodies into these synthetic bodies
Okay.
that are very obviously very realistic, very human in nature,
Yeah.
to a certain extent. They lack other certain understanding and stuff, but they're in adult bodies even though they're
Hmm.
children, so they have the
Hmm.
mentality of a child but they have adult bodies, right? And so that kind of plays into that. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris, but
Yeah.
really quickly, I was just thinking about this.
Yeah.
It's popped into my head when you were talking about some of the xenomorph stuff and
Hmm.
the hierarchy and everything that we learn about in Aliens.
Yeah.
I will give credit to Alien Resurrection for this, in that there is a scene in the movie where they have a couple of xenomorphs, I think, in kind of like a cage sort of, and they're one of the scientists, whatever, is doing certain tests on them, and they reveal that these xenomorphs have a level of intelligence,
Hmm.
right? He's like, oh, you're learning and everything, and you can see that in that scene. And so I do think that Alien Resurrection does present something that does help further the franchise along, and that is that these xenomorphs aren't just these creatures. I mean, they are parasitic, yes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the way in which everything works with the eggs hatching, and you have the face huggers that go on you, and then they impregnate, or put the baby inside the human body, and then it grows in a chest burst, and then it grows real fast into a
Hmm.
full size xenomorph, right? But we learn that there is a significant level of intelligence in these beings, right? So I just wanted to kind of put that out there before I forgot.
Yeah.
That I do think that's a kind of a critical thing. And I think that the fact that Alien Resurrection introduced that idea outside of just the Queen, right? I mean, I know in Aliens, the Queen clearly is highly intelligent,
Yeah.
and they show that, but the regular xenomorph creatures just seem like mindless killers. But Alien Resurrection says, no, no, not so fast. Actually, they do have a significant level of intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, it'll be interesting when I get to see Alien Worth Earth, and my take on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish Prometheus was better for me, or I wish I could like it more, but I couldn't like it. I know I've watched it twice, and then the second time I think I became like more critical on it because it
Mm.
just the I mean it's the science fiction part of it is like it's beautiful, really, really beautiful and really, really interesting. But I just really wanted it to be more fulfilling and then the grotesqueness like at the last third just really took me out. And then I found like inconsistencies like in some of the uh like characters too that I didn't really like. And then Covenant just kind of continued that on for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen all of Alien Romulus or no?
No, I have
Okay.
not. Yeah.
You haven't seen it at all?
I've just seen like the first like few minutes of it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I liked Alien Romulus. Now, Alien
Hmm.
Romulus is not a prequel, right? This falls in between the first Alien movie and Aliens as far as chronological order goes,
Hmm.
not obviously release date, because Alien Romulus just came out last year, actually, 2024, at the time of the recording. I like the idea though that they enter a young cast of characters, a group of characters who are stuck on this planet, basically doing it's not child slave labor, but they're doing this really hard manual labor
Mm.
at a very young age, and they're trying to earn their way off the planet and trying to earn, I guess, enough work time and work credit from Wayland Yutani Corporation to
Hmm.
eventually leave the planet. And one of the main characters thinks she's earned a lot. I think both her parents have been killed, and she's earned enough to leave the planet. And they tell her, "Oh no, sorry, we can't spare you. You know, you have to stay an extra X number of cycles, whatever it is." And then they end up stealing a ship and going up to this abandoned space station where they're gonna get a bunch of these sleeper pods and put them in their ship and then go to sleep and take off for one of these beautiful planets to live on or whatever, right? And then things go all awry and go crazy. I think it's a nice bit of a change up into
Yeah.
the franchise, especially chronologically. I mean, some of the normal stuff's there, right? Like you have humans stumble upon experimentation with aliens, and of course they get out because they're stupid and they turn something off or on, and that allows these things to escape, and then they get infected, and then there's a xenomorph, and now they're being chased, right? It's a very common story that we get in Alien, and that's where I think the franchise struggles with, right?
Hmm.
They have a really good idea from the first Alien movie, and it's just kind of been put on they push the play button and put it on repeats.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of the same over and over again. And that's where I think the fatigue comes in. I think the franchise would do well to have a completely different take. I think that Alien Earth is probably the most unique thing to come into the franchise, honestly, since the second Aliens movie.
Mm. Hmm. And
in
it,
that in that the premise of the show basically is that there was a deep space vessel that's been gone for a long time, went way out into deep space and collected all of these different alien species from around the galaxy, which is kind of absurd because they're not traveling faster than light, so from wherever, different corners of space or whatever, and it's on there. Well, unfortunately, there's an accident and the ship comes crashing down onto, surprise, Earth. Well, what happens? The alien subjects, the samples, the alien samples get out
hmm.
and start running amok on the Earth, including the xenomorph. So it's not just about the xenomorph. We get all new alien species we've never seen before and everything. So and I won't go any farther to not spoil anything, but it's a very, I think the premise and some of the different story arcs and stuff are really unique to the franchise we have not had before. That's where that's
Okay.
where I'm hoping that Alien Earth will kind of be a little bit of that refresh into the franchise that I had mentioned before.
That was interesting what you said. And again, I haven't seen Alien Earth at all, but just hearing that if the xenomorphs were part of that collection, right, of aliens on this ship, that'll be interesting to learn that were they like they weren't just spore cells. Like that was, that was the case in Alien Covenant and Prometheus, where it kind of just
Yeah.
came from these cells. So
Yeah.
that's like different, right? So that's kind of like perhaps like these were these their own independent creatures, and not just like cells or mutations. So I'll be curious to see how that comes out.
Yeah.
And if there's any like, I wonder if there's any connection again to the engineers that were mentioned in Prometheus or Covenant. We'll see.
Yeah, and from what I read, Alien Earth, when it launched, got 93% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
And one of the Alien Earth, or there was an Alien Earth review where they said it was an intelligent and thought-provoking bloodbath. So yes, there is. So the thing I will say is there is to compare it to Star Trek in the sense that there is some heady moments to it.
Hmm.
There's things that'll make you think. There's things that will make you question, like, okay, there's some definite morality issues here. There's some definite legality stuff. It really makes you think through things and say, okay, well, what would I do in this situation? If you had a child who was dying of a incurable disease, would you want your child to go through an experimental thing where they potentially would have their consciousness transferred to uh, a non-organic body to still live? But part of that means that they're not going to know who you are. I think I'm trying to remember. Not going to know who you are. They lose memories or something like that.
Hmm.
I think.
Hmm.
Uh, but there's also a horror, gory side to it. There is a couple scenes in one episode without spoiling, giving anything away. That's pretty gruesome. Actually,
Mm.
surprising it's actually on TV that it made it on TV, but on like actual network television. A network meaning FX, not like
Yeah.
ABC or Fox, whatever, right? But
Yeah.
I overall though I do think it's a really good insert, and it takes place. It's supposed to take place 16 years after Alien Covenant, and it's set before the first Alien movie in the year 2120, and I think the first Alien movie is 2122, so just 2 years later on the timeline.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll be curious to get your thoughts on it. I know we've talked about doing another episode when we've both watched all of Alien Earth and having like an Alien Earth centric uh discussion versus
Yeah.
the whole franchise. But yeah, I've liked, like I said, I've liked it so far, and I think that it's a nice addition to the franchise. Certainly better than some of the other stuff we've gotten.
Yeah. I will watch it. It sounds like almost that so you've got these ideas in Alien Earth, and transferring of consciousness and trying to extend human life and kind of the idea maybe like what does humanity do, like, and how it embraces technology to like lengthen humanity lives of those that can afford it. Um, and then the aliens kind of become a tangential thing. You've got
Yeah.
these other ideas that you're putting in the series, and then the aliens, the xenomorphs, become like this kind of thing that's there tangentially, like
Yeah.
not.
It's a part of it, but it's not
Hmm.
the central thing of the show, at least from what I've watched so far, the first half of it. Which I think is good, right? Because you think about the franchise Alien or Aliens as a whole. Does that always have to mean it's these xenomorphs, or have we've kind of run the course on the xenomorphs, and we'd like to see some additions and some changes. Like the xenomorphs can't be the only thing out there, and Alien Earth shows that they're not the only extraterrestrial species in the galaxy or in space that humans can reach.
Yeah, exactly. And this goes to your point on like franchise fatigue, right? Because they're just yeah, they've got to do other things because they can't
Yeah.
like figure out like what's more to talk about the aliens now. Like we never, because the latest in terms of Covenant and Prometheus were like, hey, that's this just kind of this mutant spore. That's their origin, right? And it's like,
Right. And at
yeah,
some point, doesn't the xenomorph and the alien species that we've seen on all the movies, doesn't that just kind of become, you got to become numb to it? It's like it's not scary anymore. I've seen it so many times on screen. I've seen the drool and the thing pop out of its mouth and the acid blood and everything else and the bursting out of somebody's chest and the face hugger. I've seen it so many times. I become numb to it. I'm just like, it's not intimidating anymore. It's not scary anymore. I need something else to give me some variety that tells me this isn't the only thing out there besides humanity.
yeah, I completely understand your point because it just becomes a thing.
Yeah.
And then what's beyond the thing except it's a monster,
Yeah.
and anything can, I mean, it's just that's your monster.
it's a character, right? It becomes a character. It doesn't become an intimidating on-screen presence, right? Like you think of Star Wars and Vader, every time he's on screen, Vader has a big presence on screen, right? He's intimidating, he's ruthless. There's a scary factor to him because of the power he has and what he could do. To me, the xenomorph's been used so many times that it just loses that. The first couple of alien, really the first three or four alien movies, there was a massive screen presence by the xenomorph, right? Every time an alien xenomorph or the queen or somebody came on, it was this big, menacing, scary monster creature that you didn't want any part of. And then you get more and more into the franchise, and you're just like, okay, we've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We know what these things do, we know what they're about. What else? What else you got? Right? Um, it's not like, oh, we had two alien movies and now they're doing something else, and you're like, I've been there, done that, seen it. There's been a lot of alien content, and it just kind of feels like, the xenomorph's a thing we've done before. So how else are you gonna keep this fresh? How else are you gonna make whatever it is on screen intimidating and powerful and have a huge presence that draws the audience in to go, ooh, I got to see what happens next. I want to watch this, but this thing really scares the crap out of me every time it comes on screen. I jump, or I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm I'm shaking a little bit here. I'm intimidated. I'm nervous. I'm all those things, right?" I don't think the Xenomorph really does that much anymore. So I like what Alien Earth is doing so far.
Well, that's cool. That's good. If I was to make like an analogy, like it's almost like for me, um, it's like you could compare them to zombies. Like zombies are a form of monster, right?
Yeah.
And then now you have the xenomorphs, and they're another form of monster. And whether the zombies were like formed by like a virus or spores, or it's just like an undead, like a spell, you just
Yeah.
have the resultant like zombie. And
Yeah.
now, and the origin didn't really matter,
Right.
but you've got this zombie monster. And so now you have these aliens are kind of serving the same like effect like as a zombie. It's like, hey, your monsters are the form of aliens, and where the aliens come from like parasites or they come from like spores, you've just got this is a monster. And so it's the monster that's there to just take out the people in the movie.
Yeah, and I feel too, Chris, as the Alien franchise has gone on, I feel like there has been almost a competition. Like, okay, the next Alien movie inserted into the franchise, we've got to make more gore, more shock and awe, right? And I think sometimes that's been done to, from my point of view, to cover up for bad storytelling,
Hmm.
for a bad script or whatever. And it's just like, well, yeah, it's an okay script. The story's okay, but we're basically just rehashing the same story, the same ideas over and over again. So how do we cover that up? Well, we'll just throw more gory death scenes and more chest bursting. And we talked about this, I think, if not this year's Halloween special, we talked about it last year's Halloween special
Hmm.
about how these gory movies, the quote unquote scary movies these days, um, it just seems like they add more and more gore in because they're trying to one up the previous stuff. And it's like the stories themselves aren't very good. So we just going to cover up bad storytelling with more gore. And I kind of feel like that's happened a little bit in the Alien franchise. I mean, do you feel that way at all? Because I know you've talked about Prometheus and Covenant and them not being very good, and maybe the storytelling, the plots, the writing wasn't all that great. So I'm curious on your thoughts on whether that's true or not amongst the franchise.
And this it does go into part like on my own personal taste now, and how my own like personal tastes like evolve, where I'm not really at this moment, I'm not really interested in like seeing gore and blood and grotesqueness um in the movies now, especially if something has an interesting idea. I want that idea fleshed out like in a meaningful way with, you know, and not to be detracted by um, like just senseless gore. And
Yeah.
um
There's a scene. There's a scene in one of the episodes of Alien Earth that you're probably going to be like, can I skip over this? Like, there is one of those scenes that I've seen so far. Again, I've only watched the first four episodes of eight,
yeah.
but one of the episodes in the four I've watched, there is a scene where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is yeah. So
Yeah, and I
they
get it.
do have
Yeah,
that element.
I do. And I mean it does. I totally understand why it's there. It needs to invoke um, you know, this it needs to invoke like shock in the audience because that's a large part of like audience entertainment is like people want to see that too, right? They go to the gory movies so that they can see this shock
Yeah.
and um and
But
there's a
not at
market
the
for that.
expense of good storytelling, though, right?
Right.
I think if we're gonna have gore, which I'm not really a big fan of, and I know you're definitely not either. I think we feel the same way about that. Uh, if it's gonna be there, I need to have good storytelling.
Hmm.
I can't have gore just for the sake of having gore and have gore to cover up bad storytelling.
Yeah.
I need them to be together. I need
Yeah.
them to work together. The gore needs to be intentional and it needs to help further the story. Not just, well, we have like 15 minutes, a 5 minute scene here or 10-minute scene here where we don't really have a lot, so let's just throw some gore in there and we'll cover that area up and we'll move on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel that. Um, I did feel that in Alien Covenant, and definitely I felt that like in Prometheus, like not to rehash it like too many times, but I feel like Prometheus started out with such an interesting premise on them going to exploring kind what is the origin of mankind,
Yeah.
right? And you've got these it's movie literally starts off like with this scene of the engineer like starting life on Earth, and these doctors exploring the origin of mankind in the cave, saying, "Oh, we think maybe mankind came from the stars." So that was that was fine. That was, I mean,
And it was all downhill after that,
yeah.
huh?
So all downhill after that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I wonder sometimes, Chris, and I want your thoughts on this. With a franchise like Alien or Aliens, right? It's been around since 1979 when the first movie came out. Do you think that the Alien franchise, which I don't know who owns is it Warner Brothers that owns the Alien franchise? I don't know who owns
I thought it was
the
20th
rights to
Century.
it. Oh,
Well,
maybe
20
it's
Fox that is the studio. 20th Century
oh,
Fox is the studio, but
maybe it's
yeah.
Fox then. Yeah, it could be Fox. But do you think that sometimes and I'm gonna have one follow-on question here.
Hmm.
Do you think sometimes an Alien being one of them in this case that the studio's like, well, let's go back to the well again because we know the franchise is successful. So if we just make something in within the franchise, then it'll make us money. We don't care if it's good or not, it'll make us money. And I ask you that first question because I had seen an interview, I think it was New York City Comic Con, where Sigourney Weaver mentioned that I guess there might be some type of potential storyline or maybe a script being developed that might bring Ripley back into the next Alien movie. And so that begs the question, just like the first one I asked, is should they go back to the well with Ripley? Is it a matter of, well, we'll go back to something familiar, something we know, and we'll make a bunch of money off of it because people know that and they're used to that and they want to see that we know what the audience wants to see, but in reality we know the studios a lot of times have no freaking clue what we actually want to see. So I'll kind of give you those two long-winded questions as far as the franchise goes and continuing to make stuff for the sake of making stuff.
Yeah. And I think I think you're right. I mean, and there's if you compare it to like they did a Scream remake, right, of the horror movie
Hmm.
Scream, like they brought that back. They brought several iterations of the Halloween franchise back, and so you're having these um uh, maybe like they could be a remake or they could be a sequel, but it's kind of bringing them back for a another generation of viewers so that they can get like introduced. But when these newer movies that come out, they really are like a form of a they don't introduce anything new. It is
Right.
kind of like a repeat of the same thing to bring in another generation of watchers into it.
Yeah.
And then kind of extending that like a little more. I mean, I feel like even to go to the Star Wars franchise, that The Force Awakens, right, was almost a sense of like that, of like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna bring another generation in, which totally understand they have to be able to bring in another generation, right, of people, and they need to be able to connect with them. And so that's what not, that's why they do it.
But with the
Um,
Star Wars franchise, Chris, they could have done a completely different era on the timeline with completely different characters versus just going back to the Well of Skywalker stuff.
yeah, I completely
Right. And
agree.
they
Yeah,
and still
yeah,
been able to bring a new generation in.
yeah.
And that goes back to the problem with the Alien franchises that like seems like everything Alien Earth I think is a little bit is definitely different than normal stuff. But in general, all these movies that they've been making, they're just redoing the same story over and over again. Oh, humanity comes across these aliens. Oh,
Mm,
they've been experimenting with it. Oh, they got out. Oh, they killed people. It's the same story. It's like wash, rinse, repeat.
agree, agree. And I think probably a lot of that's probably a business decision on like, hey, what kind of science fiction movie can we like redo out there to just bring in more like business, right?
Yeah.
Or try to just keep capitalizing off the franchise. You know, how much can we capitalize off the franchise and squeeze the franchise for it? And it becomes less and less about looking for originality or creativity, but about like, okay, how do you just squeeze the franchise more to get more out of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's talk about if you can, just just off the top of your head. Doesn't have
Yeah.
to be anything really super thought out. Give me your top three Alien movies in the franchise, and
Oh,
we won't include Alien Earth because it's a series. But give me your top three movies in the franchise.
yeah. I am actually going to say Aliens as number one, and then I will do Alien, the first one, as number two. Um, I'm thinking about the third one here. Yeah. I'm actually going to say Alien 3
Okay.
as number three. And because I know a little bit of history on that, like I know that was David Fincher directed it. He also had there was a very challenging production, like back and forth between him and the studio. But I know that he had like there was ambition like in Alien 3, and then the idea of like Alien 3 and Ripley kind of, having the alien like within her body, and the conclusion of, because that I think was the natural conclusion of Ripley's character, right? And then they had some very religious like undertones throughout the movie. So I think there was originality and ambition in Alien 3, and I think it was a challenging production, but that's why I had the top three. How about you?
Okay. I our first two are the same. So
Yeah.
definitely Aliens number one. I think most people are going to agree that that's the best in the franchise. So Aliens, second Alien movie, the first Alien movie, and then actually number three for me is actually Alien Resurrection. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, just kidding.
No, no, there's no way in hell that's number three. That's towards the bottom. No, actually Alien Romulus
Alien
would be
Romulus.
number
Okay.
three for me. Yeah,
Okay.
I really I like the movie. I mean, some
Yeah.
people may not. I like it. I thought it was a little bit of a different take. Yes, you still have they accidentally open something and one of the chest bursters gets out and then it takes somebody over and then they die and then a xenomorph gets out and chases them around. But it's different because now you have a younger younger group of people. You have a reason why why they're on the station, why they're trying to get the heck out of there. Like it's a little bit of a different take with some familiarity, which I don't mind the familiarity part, but I like that there's enough difference to it that it injects some level of new blood into the franchise. And now this is the most recent movie that was made, right? This movie came out last year in 2024, time of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that it introduces a unique twist with still a level of familiarity that I think adds something to the franchise of value.
That's cool. You know,
Um, I don't. I'm not a huge fan of Alien 3, but I don't hate it
hmm
by any means. But and it certainly is unique for sure. I think compared to the other stuff, and I do agree with you. I do think that it is kind of a natural ending to the real Ripley, not the friggin' clone that we have in Resurrection. It's
yeah,
weird and has this weird relationship with the Queen, and she's the mom, but not, and it's just freaking bizarre. Uh, but I really I do like the premise and the idea behind Alien Romulus.
yeah. That's cool. Um, yeah, another thing that's you talking just made me think about this. I know at the moment that we're recording this, Predator Badlands, I think,
Yeah.
is out in the theater, and
Yep.
I mean, I haven't seen it. I mean, I haven't seen the animated. I know there's an animated Predator right now that's on Hulu, like a series. But what I had been hearing is just all this positiveness um around the movie and the
Really.
animated series. Yeah, that
Hmm.
it's really well received. And I see things like, hey, it takes um this is a creative take, takes the franchise in an interesting direction. Um, but this seems like just from these clips and trailers that I've seen of Predator Badlands and then the animated series is that you learn more about the Predator and
I mean, yeah, you should, right?
you know so there's that. And you know the Predator is like a more relatable like character to
It's more of
us.
a human. It's more
It's more
humanoid, right?
it's more
Than
yeah.
a xenomorph. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the xenomorph thing is like is so foreign, and all it does is kill. All it does is kill, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's the motivation? Like, oh, it's
Well,
just a killer.
yes, but there is a level of intelligence that we learn in
hmm
Alien Resurrection, right? So
Yeah,
that's why I said I really like that they introduced that in that movie because it does, I think for me, it changes my perspective a little bit on the xenomorphs.
yeah, yeah. It does, and I'm just curious. We're both curious. Yeah, what do the alien? Do they have like hopes, dreams, ambitions? These xenomorphs, or are they probably not?
I
Or
uh I've been thinking about this while you've been talking, Chris, and I wonder if they ever would do an alien movie where we get to see the hierarchy like we did in Aliens, but we get to see a homeworld for the alien species. And then we get to see the queen and the other hierarchy of stuff because there's a lot of different versions of xenomorph, like the spider things, and there's all these different types of alien creatures that have specific unique roles and what they can do.
yeah.
I would almost like to see a movie where you get some perspective from the alien species itself. And then you could add humanity's aspect in it. Maybe it's, I don't know. I don't want to, maybe prequel is not the right one. Maybe it's to the point where you have the alien species and humanity kind of at war like you do in Starship Troopers between the bugs and humanity. And it's like it's maybe the movie's called like Alien Wars or something like that, right?
hmm
And it's all about the battle for survival between the alien species and humanity. And you get the more colonial marine stuff. You get these big epic scale size sci-fi battles, and I don't know, something like that would I think would be kind of fun. But then you get to see both sides, right? Like I don't know how you would make communication or how we as an audience would understand what's going on between the aliens, but it would be really cool to see that because you would build in additional hierarchy and additional intelligence and additional structure into that species. Because they do that in Starship Troopers, right? That you see that there is a hierarchy and a level of communication and coordination amongst all these different types of bugs.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I think that would be kind of a unique and fun way to insert something into the franchise that we haven't really had.
Yeah, and I believe in the comic books they do like some of that the exploration in the comic books. It's been like years since I've read of them, but they go in those different kind of directions on, hey, how do
Yeah.
you, what's on the alien homeworld?
Mm.
What is there? How do you
I have
take
not
the
read
fight to
those.
them?
Yeah, I haven't read them.
Uh,
But this could be a movie though that you could put at the end, like something that would take place after Alien Resurrection. It's in the future. It could be 50 years in the future, 100 years in the future, and it would be like a future wars, Alien Wars type of thing. I don't know. That'd
and
be
you,
kind of fun.
we need to put Jean-Claude Van Damme and Arnold Schwarzenegger in there, and they go to the alien homeworld, and then they just, they they take care of business. And Sylvester Stallone.
I,
Yeah.
I would say if this movie was 30 years ago, yes, but they're all in their 60s and 70s, so it'd be like the army of geriatrics. All now you had me at JCVD, by the way.
JCVD, yeah,
You
yeah,
had me at Jean Claude.
yeah,
That would be pretty cool to watch Jean Claude kick some ass, like kick some alien butt, right?
yeah. He'll
That
do
would
the
be fun.
spinning kick, to the Xenomorph. He'll
Yeah,
knock it out.
I want to see him do the move where he jumps up in the air and does the splits in the air, but it's
Hmm.
also a kick to
Yeah,
two opponents, and that would be
yeah,
cool.
yeah. That would be.
Yeah,
Um, the alien homeworld would be great. Like, all of those ideas are great. I'm
like
with you in like, yeah,
franchise furthering, right? Things that further
yeah.
the franchise and move the needle of the franchise, right?
Yeah, and I I'm with you. I don't know how they do it with all kind of the various kind of directions they've been going on. Like with it, are they is it a mutation? Is it a spore? Is it like it's a bioweapon? So I don't know how see what they can do.
I mean, I think you need a franchise leader, right? Maybe it's Ridley Scott, maybe it's somebody else. You need somebody who orchestrates the direction of the franchise. Star Wars has had this with George Lucas, and then now, unfortunately, Disney. You've had with Star Trek, you've had showrunners amongst the different shows. For the Legacy Trek series, you had Rick Berman, who kind of oversaw the franchise,
Hmm.
and then a lot of times there were different showrunners for the series. But some of the most successful franchises have had like a franchise showrunner, somebody who is there, who is continuity, who oversees everything, who has a vision and a direction for the for the franchise and the plot and the story arcs and the storylines and everything else that can lead and direct that. That's, I think, a big part of what the Alien franchise is missing. And maybe having Ridley Scott coming back in to oversee and help produce Alien Earth is a start. I definitely see his handiwork in the show so far, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Um, who knows? Maybe Alien Earth will take the franchise in a new direction, or it'll end the franchise. One or the other.
yeah, yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see, my
Um,
friend. Well,
but this is an amazing franchise. I mean, it really is. Yes, it has its issues, but I think all franchises have their issues, right? I mean, I don't. There's no squeaky clean, perfect franchise out there, especially in science fiction. Um, So, well, maybe Buffy the Vampire Slayer for you, Chris, if that's consider that sci-fi or not.
Buffy's
But
awesome. Buffy is
yeah,
awesome. Gotta
I do need
say.
to. I need to watch. I think I need to find that series and watch it with my wife because she was a big fan of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie with who was that? Luke Perry, was he the one? He's
Yeah,
the one that
yeah,
passed
Luke
away. Who's
Perry. Yeah.
gone? Yeah, him
Hmm.
and
Donald Sutherland
Donald
and
Sutherland, and yeah, I actually had a number of decent names in that movie.
mm,
But I know she really liked that movie, so she probably would like the show. I think. And who doesn't love Sarah Michelle Gellar? I mean,
yeah.
right?
She's awesome. She's really great as Buffy.
Is she
She
okay?
really is. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
super as
she's a
Buffy.
good actress. I think she's done really well in a lot of stuff she's done, so that doesn't surprise me that she's good.
Yeah. Cool.
Uh, if you can dust off the cobwebs for a second,
Hmm.
Chris, remind me. We've discussed a couple of times about our top 10 favorite sci-fi franchises. Do you remember approximately where the Alien franchise fell for you in your top 10?
I think it was probably mid.
Like top like 4 or 5 or something like that?
I don't think it. I- I'll go back. And look, I don't think it was top five, but I think it was up there.
I think we both had it in our top 10 though,
Yeah,
right? I think so.
yeah. I would still like, I'd still have the second Aliens movie on there. I mean, it's really great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, you if you go back and look at the cast that they had in Aliens,
Hmm.
Sigourney Weaver, Paul Reiser, uh, um, Michael Biehn,
Yeah.
Bill Paxton, Veronica Cartwright. I think that's her last name, right? Yeah, because she's been in a bunch of stuff, including X-Files and a million other things. Um, that had an incredible cast. I
We
mean, and
should, yeah.
I don't remember all the names of all the other Colonial Marines, but they had a really darn good collection of actors in that movie.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, that movie was just like again, you're going on an adventure and it's going to be a kick butt like adventure, right?
Yeah,
It's just like bombastic like that. And then and the pacing like is great. And
yeah,
these uh you just love to see like all that confidence in the Colonial Marines, like they want to go and they want to kick butt.
right.
And they do for the most, they do like a lot of times, and then they get their butts like kicked and they get, decimated by the aliens. But we should do a
Yeah.
rewatch of it.
I didn't watch the whole thing, but they have been running a lot of the Alien movies on TV on like FX, probably because of
Yeah.
the Alien Earth show. So I watched about an hour of it. I don't know, a week or two ago, but I should go back and watch it from beginning to end again. It really is. It's like Back to the Future, man. I really have not watched those movies in quite a while, even though they're my favorite. I just haven't. I've had so much other stuff going on, life, and we've had stuff we're watching and reviewing. And then they've been on TV lately, and I sat down earlier today and was watching part of Back to the Future 2 and then Back to the Future 1. I'm like, oh my gosh, these movies are so good. They're so good. It's like, it's almost like you have to remind yourself, even though you don't need to be reminded of how good something is.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, imagine, Chris, if the Aliens movie was a flop. You think that would have killed the franchise right there,
Yeah.
and they would have tried again, or would they have just been done?
I think they would have been done.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too.
I think they would have been done.
I think the Aliens movie is the reason why they keep trying with the franchise. I think they're
Mm.
trying to capture that magic of that second movie. And the first Alien movie is incredible too. Um, the first Alien movie, do you find moments in that movie where the pacing kind of reminds you of like 2001 Space Odyssey and Blade
Yeah.
Runner as far as the pacing
Yeah.
goes?
Yeah. And totally makes sense since, yeah, Ridley Scott was both Blade Runner and Alien.
Yeah.
But totally this
But it
methodical
makes sense,
pacing.
right? Yeah. I
Mm.
mean, it's very intentional. I liked it. I think it fits with the movie, some of that pacing, especially early on. And I love it. I love that like 1970s, like old school looking like space shots with the dark planet and the spaceship is just slowly. I mean, dude, it's classic science fiction. I mean, I can understand why people say the 70s was the greatest decade because you have movies like this. I mean, the first Alien movie was groundbreaking science
Hmm.
fiction. I mean, they did stuff in that movie that they had never done before in movies, and it really, I think it altered the landscape quite a bit for science fiction moving forward. I think it really did.
No, particularly in mixing the genres, like as well, right? Yeah.
1,000%. Because you
Yeah.
look at it, right? I mean, there was 7 years. I didn't realize this until I looked at it earlier. 7 years between the first and second Alien movies. That's a long time.
That is a great point because if you just think about the first Alien movie as an individual movie, you go like, okay, where do you want to go from here? Because it is like a slasher movie, right? So,
Yeah.
um, what's the, you know, what's where do you go? What's the natural kind of like evolution of this? And it made sense that you need time to germinate that idea of like going, okay, we'll take it to the next level. We're gonna have multiple aliens. It's gonna be this, blah, 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 blah. Because you don't want to do a repeat. That was the thing. From Alien was its own like individual distinct movie. In Aliens, was completely different because you don't want to do a repeat.
The first Alien movie, actually, both Alien movies. Well, no, the second one plays out the first one. The very first Alien movie, if they had just made that and left it alone and never made anything else, it's a complete standalone movie.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like you don't really
Yeah.
need anything else beside the first movie, right? Because okay, you might have some questions like, well, where did that ship come from and what are these aliens? But it's the way they made it, they ended it so perfectly that it could have been its own standalone movie and never been touched again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so what you said, Chris, makes sense about there being needing time to germinate the ideas and so forth, right? Like there's 7 years between the first two Alien movies. Then you get another 6 year gap between the second and third movie. Then a 5 year gap between Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. There's another 7 year gap. And then you get a 5 year gap between Alien vs. Predator Requiem and Prometheus, a 5 year gap to Covenant, and then another 7 year gap between Covenant and Romulus, which was the most recent movie last year, and then the next year they make Alien Earth. So you can see that there's definitely been gaps in the franchise. It's not been this consistent thing that's been made every couple of years. There's definitely been some major gaps.
And to your point, what you were saying earlier is like it didn't feel like there was a leader, a lead planner, right? Because
Right.
you need a plan,
Continuity,
some
right?
yeah, continuity and a plan and a vision, a connected vision.
Yes.
Um, and so yeah. Yeah.
I
You
think
need
that's a
that.
big reason why the franchise I think has struggled really since Alien 3. I
Hmm.
think that the franchise has struggled for an identity and what it wants to do since Alien 3.
Hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of Alien 3, but I think you were absolutely right when you said that Alien 3 kind of wrapped a bow on original, I would call it like the original trilogy or
Hmm.
whatever, the
Yeah.
first three movies, and made everything, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? They concluded it,
Yeah.
right? That's where I think Alien Resurrection was just such a completely unnecessary movie. Like, I don't think the Alien Resurrection did anything to add to the franchise, and it certainly didn't further the franchise. Well, that's not true. The one thing they added was the intelligence piece, but
Yeah.
they didn't further the franchise really at all. It just kind of felt like a throw-in movie. Uh, and then they've had all these prequels that they've made, and then they did Alien Romulus, which we know takes place in between number one and number two, and then Alien Earth now, which is a prequel, but I think, like I said, when you see it, I think you'll kind of get what I'm talking about in there. But
Yeah. Yeah. I will check
um,
it out.
I think a pretty fairly unique uh, insert into the franchise. So, anyways, well,
Mm.
Chris, this has been a lot of fun. I think we have definitely hammered out some ideas. We've talked through a lot of our thoughts and shared our likes and dislikes of the franchise. It's certainly a franchise we have wanted to discuss for quite a while now, and we're finally getting to it. And it feels awesome to finally inject this franchise into our podcast.
Yeah, it feels great to do this. I will check out Alien Earth and see how it goes. I also want to go back and take a look at some of the old comic books and kind of see, hey, what did they do with the story here? Where'd they go?
Yeah, and watch Romulus too.
Okay.
I'm
I
I'm
will.
I'm very interested in your thoughts on that movie, being that I'm a fairly decent fan of the movie.
Nice.
So
Nice.
get your take on that for sure. For those of you watching or listening all over the globe in the interwebs, we want to hear your thoughts. Let us know what you think of the Alien franchise. What's your favorite movie in the franchise? Do you think the franchise is suffering from franchise fatigue? What direction would you take moving forward? Would you end the franchise with Alien Earth, or would you continue on? Let us know in the comments below if you're on YouTube, or send us an email at our Gmail account, which you can find on our social media platforms. You can also send us messages and comments on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and let us know what you thought of the franchise as a
Hmm.
whole, any of these questions we've asked, all that good stuff. It's a lot of fun, and we look forward to coming back and talking about Alien Earth in the near future as we finish that and watch that series and bring you more on that. But also, one of the things we're going to do, and we'll share the details at a later date, but we're going to be starting a new spotlight series here in the very near future, and we're excited to dive into that because we're going to talk about some of the most upper echelons of Starfleet, Chris. And some of these episodes and some of these characters are going to be a blast to talk about and break down because there's some not so nice ones and some real bad leaders.
Mhm. Absolutely. The Admirals of Starfleet.
Yes.
The Admiral, that's a cool name for Spotlight, right?
Yeah, they're exactly
The
that we're
Admirals of
we're
Starfleet.
we're gonna go with that, Chris. We're gonna use that. I like that. The Admirals of Starfleet is our next spotlight series. We cannot wait to share that with you. We're gonna have some amazing episodes across a bunch of the different Trek series. And it's going to be really cool because what I like about this, Chris, is not only do we get to review the individual episodes, which is a blast, and we're going to get a lot of TNG in this, which is great
Mhm.
because there's a lot of awesome um, characters. Actually, well, we talked about the admirals. Maybe we should expand it to a couple of the like Captain Jellicoe. We have to have in there too, right? Even though he's not an admiral.
Mhm.
So there's some characters, a lot of TNG ones too that are really going to be fun. Again, not only to discuss the episodes, but to break down leadership styles and how would we respond if we were subordinate to those captains and admirals. I mean, it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, absolutely is. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too. So, all right, everybody. Thank you again so much as always for watching, listening to all the globes and the interwebs. Be sure to hit us up on social media. Do the like and subscribe thing on YouTube if you like this content that we're producing. And be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. We very much greatly appreciate that from all of you. So take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt podcast.